Hi, this is Michael Waitze, and welcome to today's Tech Insight series on how the cloud serves as a backbone for the thriving gaming industry. Today's show is hosted by TechNode Global in partnership with Alibaba Cloud, and we have a killer panel today. And I would like to give our panelists the opportunity to do some quick self-introductions. Let's start with Lucas Mao. Lucas, please go ahead.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. My name is Lucas. I'm from Moonton Games. We are the developer of Mobile Legends Bang. It's a mobile category game. For now, Mobile Legends Bang, which is have around 100 million active users every month. And also for myself, I'm managing the esports division of Moonton Games. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Ken Xu.
Yeah, hi. My name is Ken, solution architect from Alibaba Cloud, based in Singapore. We have a huge team in Singapore from Alibaba Cloud, and my main focus here is in the media and gaming industry solutions. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ken. Next up is Keong Go.
Hello all, I'm Keong. I'm the AI Technical Director for Yoozoo Games, and I'm also the Managing Director for AI Square Labs, an incubator program under Yoozoo. Very happy to be here today and looking forward to hearing from all the fellow panelists.
Super. Our penultimate guest is Nick Lee. Nick, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. This is Nick. I'm a strategic partner manager from Facebook, based in Singapore. As the name suggests, I handle partnership relationship between Facebook and many of the game developers, specifically from the Greater China region. I think work-wise, I focus on driving adoption of new product features, platform-wise, SDK-wise, that's developed by Facebook to be used by the game developers to help game developers to strive for bigger success of their games.
Super. Thank you so much, Nick. And finally, Yiren Lim. Please go ahead.
Hey there, I'm Yiren from Unity Technologies. So we are a game engine company, and I handle the business development and educational efforts for Unity here in Southeast Asia. Yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Super. It's great to have everybody here. Like I said, this is an amazing panel. Let's just jump right into the questions. Can we move the presentation to the next page, please? Super. So we're going to start off with this question. What are some of the changes? And Nick, we're going to start with you. What are some of the changes in user perspective in terms of behavior and gaming preferences? Nick, please go ahead.
Thank you, Michael, for the question. Yeah. I think it's a very broad topic to talk about user perspective in terms of behavior. And I think when we are looking at cloud gaming, we should take a look at the whole history of games evolution from the very early days back to the 60s or something, when people are playing arcade. And we have, we have all the consoles, and we have, all the CDs and DVDs for, when people go to the physical stores to purchase. And next we have the digital age with the evolution of internet. Everybody's like doing digital download and installs. So I do believe that with the advancement of technology, and with the empowerment of cloud, that gaming is also evolving at the same time, right? And with cloud gaming, it has a great potential, right, to bring a lot of good gaming content, especially those requires heavy computation on user's device, or any computation about graphics that currently we rely on the end user's devices. When we bring it up to the cloud, you can actually, I have to say, lower the barrier of a lot of premium and high requirement content to be accessible to a lot of the general public. So following this logic, I do believe that there will be more and more rich 3D complex or heavier games being enabled by cloud to be published and becoming more and more popular to that. And with this supply of content, we also drive the user's behavior. Maybe we will also, spoil their taste about their requirement of graphics and everything. But I do believe that it's actually improving and heading towards a very positive direction, especially with the enablement of the cloud gaming. Yeah, happy to hear the suggestions from advice from the other panelists.
Yeah, let's hear from Yi Ren on this as well. I mean, I can repeat the question for you. What are some of the changes in the user perspective in terms of behavior and gaming preferences? What do you see from your perspective?
I think just like how Netflix and other streaming content has revolutionized the conventional media industry, we are seeing something very similar for cloud gaming, right? Where users are going to get access to a buffet of content that's not normally accessible, perhaps in areas where hardware penetration is not as robust. That being said, there are still some limitations to cloud gaming, right? Network infrastructure is particularly important to ensure that you have a latency-free experience. But I can see that on the technology end, there are methods that are being used to develop, such as GPU resource sharing, or in fact predictive input, all ways that we can potentially help extend content to more users around the world. To that end, I think in terms of behavior, it could potentially expose users to try out different genres. In the past, when you have to drop maybe $50 to $60 on a single title, versus having a subscription, right? Like what we see for maybe Xbox's Game Pass, as an example of a subscription service. What we see with maybe Stadia or Luna could potentially mean that as a gamer, you would be able to access a lot more different types of content. Like the barrier to trying is going to be significantly lower, and yeah, that brings new opportunities, right, for exploration, but also challenges in terms of discovery.
Really, that's a fascinating answer, right? Really good. And I think we're going to come back to some of the stuff you said as we move along. I want to go on to the next question. How will game developers, publishers, and platforms also need to shift their models? And maybe Keong, you can comment on this first.
That's actually very interesting and a very complex question to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I'll probably take a step back and look at who are the stakeholders involved in this dynamic landscape. We have spoken about players. How the game developers, how would the cloud platforms or the cloud gaming platforms draw them in this new era, so to speak. And the other dimension that we need to think about is that the landscape is going to change, and it's going to change big time. We have now the introduction of the cloud gaming platforms, and we have got the traditional companies, hardware companies entering the fray, and NVIDIA, for example. And the telco is now back in the picture. So we can't forget about this. The big question that we probably want to ask ourselves is, how would the different players start to work together?
Right.
So while we might think that the landscape is pretty rosy, we are getting the users to have a lot of the AAA games on a single platform. But we probably want to think about what incentives do game developers have to put their games on the cloud gaming platforms. Right, so this is just one facet of it. And how about the data? Who owns the data for it? Right, so how we work with each other will change, and that is going to change the business model and the gaming model itself. The players also. Right now, we all think about, as a gamer, I really like the idea that I play my game on my desktop. Then if I need to go to work, I continue to play on my mobile phone. That really gets me excited. But we really need to think about something that goes beyond just gaming streaming to all the different machines. I mean, Fortnite is already doing it. If we are just doing what Fortnite is doing, then we are not actually doing the potential of the cloud gaming, right? I probably pause here and allow the other panelists to share their thoughts too.
Lucas, why don't you go ahead next, please?
Okay. As a developer, I think we are quite open to the cloud gaming, to the new technology. What we are doing now is try to understand, prepare, and explore the possibilities. What we did recently is we tested a cast game on a cloud gaming platform because we wanted to understand how is the technology going now, what category games are more suitable for cloud gaming, and also we put the cast game on the platform. We want to know how it's going, how is the difference on the user acquisition, the user experience, the network latency, and also the monetization. Yeah, so for us, I think there is a lot of possibility as the technology goes on. But now we are quite open to try and understand.
Thank you. Nick, I'd like to come back to you on this question as well. And I'd like to give you sort of a follow-up to it. I'd like to know your perspective on this, but do you also think more indie games will be created because of this move to the cloud? Is that going to be one of the shifts in the models? And particularly for a platform like Facebook, which used to have this super powerful and almost ubiquitous gaming platform, right?
Yeah, thank you for the question. On the Facebook front, we're also exploring to be the host and the platform to host cloud games.
Yep.
We have actually started some early work since last year. You can also find some public announcement out there that we have actually launched a beta program in the US region, and we're actually opening some content. We welcome some content to be listed on our platform. In terms of genre, if you look at traditional PC or console cloud gaming solutions, I think they straight away aim for AAA titles.
Right.
But on the Facebook point of view, we are a platform that hosts just a more general demographic of people. So we are open to all genres of game, but to fully utilize the technology of cloud, we have some preference into games that are more complicated and graphically heavy to that. And I think graphic requirement and whether it's indie game or not are two separate categorization. So indie game, yes, definitely. Casual games, heavy games, competitive games, single player, multiplayer. I think that we are all welcoming, and we are still at the exploration stage. And it's too early for us to say which genre will have a better result as of now. But I do think everybody got a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost feels a little bit like the democratization again of gaming. Let's move on. Can we go to slide 5, please?
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, Ken here. I just want to add a bit on the first 2 questions.
Please
yeah,
go ahead.
for the changes of user perspective and as well as the developers, as a cloud service provider, we also seen some of the interesting trends, right? So in terms of user perspective, I would say that along the way that we will see more and more casual gamers coming onto the board as compared to previously. There are more hardcore gamers from the console. It's mainly because maybe of the technologies advancement of the mobiles and also the light clients into like browsers, right? So that's the user part. In terms of developers and platforms, we see a huge increase of mobile developers, of mobile platforms that is or publishers that's using our cloud services recently, right? This I think is also because one of the things that brought up by Michael, the indie games developers. Yeah, there are more and more because also like what Nick was mentioning, because of the technologies, the development technology in the game engine technologies, the advancement of these technologies, the barrier of entry for in terms of game developments is also being lowered down.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole point of that question. And actually, I want to open up the floor to everybody to answer the following question, because a few people have kind of mentioned this. Let's just leave it on page 5. This is a different question than we had before, but people have brought this up, and again, it brings back up this idea of the indie games and the democratization of gaming platforms because they're moving to the cloud. And if you think about this continuous decline in the price of storage, right? Just storing data, and also the increase in compute power. And maybe Ken, we can start with you on this. How does this drive data retention, data analysis, and even data science in the gaming industry? And how do like these ML ops platforms get built to facilitate this so that even the small indie gamer can do data analysis? Does that make sense?
Yes. I think I will first answer your questions on the data part first. Then I will also talk about this access and ownership trend as well.
Yep.
So on the data portion, as I mentioned earlier, because all the technologies advancement and also the cloud platforms, right, allows the developers to access to all kinds of data analytics tools at a very cheap price. And also I have to mention, because I'm coming from a developer as well, the different SDKs, the libraries of data analytics is getting easier and easier to use as well. So on the Alibaba cloud platform and also many other cloud service provider platform, they provide those data analytics managed services. Means it's like a platform as a service, or even SaaS, software as a service, the IDEs, right, to help the developers to create their own data models and also deploy those data models into APIs to help them to use data-driven technologies to look into their user behaviors, their gamer behaviors. And we call it data operation, right?
Yep.
And using this data operation, they can gain customer insights. They can better enhance their products and finding what is which feature or what type of gameplay is most famous or most popular among the gamers. Yeah. And also want to add that because there's the increase of microtransactions as well, the different services that they sell to their customers. So it's very the end players, right? So it's very important for them to find out what type of microtransactions or micro game products they want to sell to their end users, right? So in order to find those things, data analytics is very important. And actually cloud technology actually lower the entry barrier for data analytics for these game publishers and developers.
Exactly. Nick, would you like to comment on this as well? Both this shift in the model for users and developers, but also the question about the cheaper storage and the data analytics as well, because I think those two things go together.
Yeah, sure. I think we do see an increment in the number of overall count of developers. I think that's definitely got something to do with better tooling and SDK, as Ken mentioned, and services provided like Ali Cloud that actually developing a game nowadays have a lot of groundwork being laid by other parties already. So the game developers can focus more on the actual gameplay. The other side of the development can build on the shoulders of the other giants. And with that, we do see a lot of data analytics tools and SDKs that people can plug in and immediately use their services to keep track of their gamers' in-game behavior, and etc. It's getting more convenient. Another thing that from Facebook's point of view that we also do foresee from cloud is some changes that in terms of advertisements, digital advertisements. If you recall, like Facebook, Google, and traditional platform where publishers run their user acquisition campaign to acquire users, cloud can actually open up a new opportunity whereby is in terms of like a demo version of the game. Like we provide a 1 or 2 minute quick trial round or a demo version of the game to let user quickly play via cloud on the platform, kind of like serve it as an as or a demo. You can define it before they choose to download the game or just launch the game straight away on cloud platform. It's actually another point that we also do notice, and there's a huge potential when cloud can come in to make ads a different kind of ad product to the user as well. So in terms of that, it's not just developers in terms of game development, for publishers who are more in charge of acquiring user, marketing, and publishing of the game. Cloud can also help them in terms of ad assets. It's not just video, picture, words. It can be an actual demo playable version of the game itself running on cloud. So we do also think that is a revolutionary opportunity for us. for everyone.
I love it. Yiren, do you want to jump in and comment as well?
Well, actually, for this, I think it's a pretty complex question. I think like the other panelists have mentioned. I would say, generally speaking, it's going to move a lot more towards the user end, primarily because they are the ones holding the purse strings essentially. I would say that for services, right, like Stadia and Luna out there, where we want to give users a subscription style model, similar to what we are seeing with Apple Arcade. I feel that small medium games will find a good home on this platform. But generally speaking, the larger IPs, right, the AAA titles from the likes of maybe Microsoft, Bethesda, etc., are likely to continue to be sold separately. Yeah, provided their large owners choose to put them on their existing platforms. So overall, I would say it's going to be a lot more significant for games on the small to medium end of the spectrum. Yeah, but the top tier titles that we see, like maybe FIFA, for example, are still likely to be standalone. Yeah, but I think that's, who knows, things might change.
Well, the one thing we know for sure is things will definitely change. Let's move, unless somebody else wants to comment on that, let's move to slide 6. That would be great. And I want to start with Keong for this. What are the opportunities in bringing together gamers and enthusiasts in live events compared with a purely narrative structure in gameplay?
Yeah, right. I don't think it's going to be a situation of the events versus narrative. The power of everything on the cloud actually means that there are opportunities to actually bring out both together. So for example, a very long time ago, when we started, my generation of people started out playing games. All right, everything is about narrative and stories. But right now, you look at the storyline of games. It is no longer like linear where you play at start and ends. There's always the loops and loops and loops. Certain loops allow you to go. They send you on missions, for example. Certain loops will be going out to dig for find certain treasure. Now, these are actually fantastic ideas for events. So this is where you could actually weave the events into a narrative. All right, but obviously you have got the situations where the certain games have got live events, to reward the gamers. Fortnite, for example. They have got this Travis tour of the world. That is an example, right? And what I also see is that as we evolve cloud gaming, there could be cases where it won't be a single player playing a single character as an event. All right. I remember some time back there was this Twitch live stream on where they got in all the participants to play in Pokemon. Right. So everybody voting, whether a move left, move right. Hey, why not? We could have this kind of fantastic events that is part of the narrative as well. So probably a related point to how we change the way we develop games, right? We will be thinking about how to weave all of these live events as part of the narrative, right?
Got it. Lucas, do you want to comment on this as well?
Because I'm working on the esports, so maybe I can share something.
Please.
Esports events, the live tournaments, the streaming. I think in esports, difference is when we do live events, there is not only about the game, there is a story going on with the players, teams, and also the audience in the venue or online. So I think there is more storytelling. Yeah, there is more storytelling. So it's more like not only a game streaming, it's more like a entertainment content. Okay. For me, I think that's the difference.
Absolutely. Yiren?
Actually, I think that like what Keong first mentioned in the start, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to move away from a purely narrative structure. In my view, actually, it's more of scripted versus unscripted events. Honestly speaking, yeah, we have seen a lot of scripted ones where these are primarily either single player experiences or maybe limited cooperative events in games. But if you're talking about unscripted human-driven interactions, like I think in this case they mentioned live events. We actually see that all the time in MMORPGs today, right? A large number of players collaborating on maybe common objectives. Yeah, could be taking down a boss or fighting through quests together. And that sort of collaborative content, it's already existent. I do see, however, that with cloud technology coming to play, this could potentially support greater numbers of players, right? So in the past, maybe you can only support up to 100, yeah, but who knows, you might be able to support thousands or more, right? In an interactive, ever-changing environment. Yeah. So I think that sort of social aspect, it's quite likely to be bigger in scale, but I think the engagement will be, we have seen examples basically of already unscripted events between live, I guess, events. Yeah, in game.
Yeah, it's just this whole topic is just super interesting to me. Let's move on to slide 7, please. So Ken, this is for you. Let's come back to you for a second. How will publishers, developers, and platform players optimize their delivery, considering the differences geographically in the cloud and internet infrastructure globally?
I think before I answer this question, maybe I can add a little bit more on the previous.
Please do.
Question. Yeah.
Please do jump in.
Yes. Okay. So from a cloud service provider perspective on this is narrative structure is maybe it's a less human interaction. So the games are maybe more single player. And events or live events and gamers enthusiasts coming together, those are more interactions between humans. And I believe the new technologies such as VRs or ARs are actually, or even the live streamings, especially during this COVID situation, that actually brought these live events to everyone, even those people stay at home, not actually attending the real events, right? For example, VRs, Facebook, they have the Oculus Quest. I do have one as well. I use them all the time using the big room as the application to meet people. It's actually like a live event, and we talk about different things and also play games together in the VR space. So actually technologies like this actually, especially virtual reality, blurs the line of these live events and also the narrative structure. And also the Unity, I believe many of the games in the Oculus Quest is actually created by Unity, because the ease of the use of their engine, and then it's quite lightweight as compared to some of the other engines that is able to run on the Oculus Quest itself. So that's my point on this particular question. Then I will go to the next one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for this question, okay, cloud internet infrastructure differences between different regions, right? How do publishers and developers or platforms optimize them? So actually, from cloud service provider Alibaba perspective, we are trying very hard to help the publishers or the platformers or the developers to overcome this as well. So recently, we do have customers like from Mongolia is want to deploy their data centers, although they are not typically a game customer. So the things we can help in like as a cloud service provider is we have those connections with the different telco providers, right? Especially from Alibaba Cloud perspective is we do have good close connections with the big 3 telcos in China, and they also have presence in different parts of the world, or even those less developed infrastructure less developed countries like Mongolia. And there are technologies such as setting up lease lines, using lease lines to access to the data centers or build data centers in the place like Mongolia. So the people there, if they have a mobile phone and play games, they are still able to connect to those data centers. Yeah, but of course the games they play, of course, may be slightly different also, maybe less I would say less network or latency heavy for those type of games. Let me also, yes. Then the other one is I would say that, for example, another example I have is Thailand, right? So Thailand, although the infrastructure is very advanced, but for Alibaba Cloud perspective, we do not have a data center there, but we do have some this we call it edge type of a data center or edge POPs or edge servers there to help us to deliver the game contents to the place like this without a data center. So what are those? For example, in Thailand, we do have global acceleration POPs. We call it global acceleration points, stations, whereby we can accelerate network connectivities to the location, like for example, like in Thailand from Singapore. And because Singapore, we have data centers, 3 data centers, we can set up this type of connectivity to them to help the platformer, the publishers and developer in the place like Thailand, which without our own data centers. And the other one, besides global acceleration, there's also CDN nodes. Yeah, CDN nodes are actually, we call it a content delivery network, right? Whereby you actually help to cache certain contents that you do in your web application or even games, right? So those POPs are actually very common in every place around the world, not just a place with data centers. So technologies like this can help these publishers and developers to bring their content closer to the gamers that is having a less infrastructure ready places, right? That's my answer for this question.
Okay, I'm having a question from the audience, from one of the participants, so I'd like to get to that. I don't have their name, and this is really for all the panelists. Good question though. Do you think gaming communities are important? And would you recommend mobile games or PC games or Mac OS games as part of this community building? This is for everybody, so you can raise your hand or you can just jump in, anybody who wants to answer that question.
Maybe I can start.
Go for it.
I would say maybe, over time, right? Like there's a huge number of genres, I would say. In some genres, community is more important than others, I would say. So for example, in single player titles, communities exist to discuss lore, discuss strategies, tactics, etc. There are games like Minecraft, for example, where the modding community is pretty much the lifeblood of the game, right? You create and extend on the gameplay in ways that the developers have never really considered. And around that, you have built a whole thriving community of people who, basically are united by their love for that original IP, and they all work in common to extend it. Of course, then there are MMORPGs where it's pretty much players who play together. In that case, some of these communities are already integrated into the game, right? Via guilds, clans, etc. Yeah, without a doubt, I would say community is hugely important for games. It's just that it just really depends on what sort of genre you're looking at. Maybe for hyper casuals, not so much, but there are certain genres that community is everything. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else, or should we just move on? I'm happy.
I want to add a bit more on the gaming community. I think for now, the gaming community is getting more and more important to the developers.
Okay.
The reason is, if you look at the young generation, if you look at the Gen Z, the young people are more willing to share, to create content, to share, to communicate with us, the young generation. So they have more motivations to create some very special community culture. So because it's not only about the game skills, the game strategy. Sometimes they create a very interesting culture based on the game. It's a new trend. The young generation prefer to communicate and in the community.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I want to get back to Ken, just as a follow-on to the previous question, Ken, this idea of on-premise versus cloud, which one of these do you think is going to fuel the future of gaming going forward?
Again, I want to comment on the community part.
I love the fact that you have an opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the question, second part of the question, he also asked what to recommend, be it a mobile, PC, Mac OS, and I believe he also should include console as well. So I think the platform is not important, but community, no matter what platform, is important, especially like what Lucas say, very important. Nowadays, the younger generations like to express themselves in the forms like live streaming of their games, right? We see a lot of Twitch gamers, Twitch influencers that stream live streaming their games on the platform, digital platform like Twitch. And of course, Alibaba Cloud as a cloud service provider, we also provide such capabilities, such tools for people to create their own live streaming platforms to do their streaming to the gaming community. So to help them to build the community as well from a cloud service provider point of view. Okay, then I come back to my question, on-premise versus the cloud. Of course, this question, if you ask someone from a cloud service provider, my answer definitely will be cloud. Yes, very easy answer for myself, right? Yes. So, but the reasons, there are many reasons behind it. So we're seeing that in recent years, especially the rise of indie games, and also we see the life cycle of games are getting shorter and shorter. Life cycle, as I put it, game operation life cycle, right? For example, mobile games. Previously, maybe a development can take to like more than 3 years. Now it's getting shorter and shorter because of different different demands or so many games out there in the market. They need to catch the attention, the time of the end users. And we see in terms of games, right, normally the income will have different stages. When it's in the testing phase, beta stage, the users, the number of players is peak at a very high level. And during the growth phase of your game, you will drop a bit. But if your game is good, you will still slowly picking up again, and you remain there, and slowly you will go down again. So you see the number of users is very elastic, right? Because of that, right, you don't, as a developer or publisher, if you deploy in the on-premise, you need to spend a lot of money to purchase the hardware. But if the number of users fluctuate quite a bit, the amount of money is actually wasted. And if you want to satisfy the demand of peak traffic, yeah, you need to invest more and more. So that's the capital control part. So on the cloud, advantage will be elastic. It's also flexible payment. Flexible payment, as in the cloud environment, is pay as you go. You can do play as you go. So you only pay for the things you need, and you can elastically scale up your demand, scale up your servers, right? And the second thing is global deployment. The pinpoint of on-premise is global deployment. Why? Because in each country or each region, they need to set up their data centers in order for them to serve the players in that region. But on the cloud, yeah, in order to spin up the data center, or we call it the AZ, availability zone, is much faster in different regions. Like for Alibaba Cloud, we have 60 over countries presence, and 60 over plus data centers around the world that the publishers can, or developers can spin up their cloud resources and use them to serve their players. And the third one will be the security portion. So in on-premise, of course, on-premise can have a good security as well, but it's difficult to manage, right? Different data center operators have a different level of competency for their security level. But on the cloud, right, we do have a standard, not just Alibaba Cloud, but other cloud service providers should have as well. They have a certain level of standard to maintain the security of your data center, right, operation. Yeah, so because of these three, I believe the future for these developers, the publishers, they should be lying on the cloud, right? And I would also want to bring it in that definitely for those indie games, right? Developers, small players to enter the market, their budget are small, so they are more willing to use the cloud. But for the bigger players, they also have an incentive. For example, just now I mentioned like the scaling, also the security. The other way is we also have a hybrid cloud of a model, whereby you still can use your data center, but make use of the cloud resources to do scaling. So when your games have an unforeseen type of a peak in terms of players, you can scale up or burst your traffic or compute resources to the cloud to let the cloud help you to maintain those traffics. And when the traffic goes down, lesser player, you can still scale back to your data centers.
Yeah.
So the cloud also helps to do that. Yeah. So I believe cloud is the future for game developers, be it the small indie game developers or those large big companies, right? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is more of a comment than a question, but the idea of dynamic scaling, global distribution, and security and the management of all those things, that is the key. Those are the key points for the cloud for every industry, not just gaming, but very good points. Let's move ahead to slide 8, please. And I want to start with Keong on this. From your perspective, what are some of the challenges? Maybe give me 3 in cloud gaming, and how can the industry address these in sort of creative and innovative ways? Keong, do you want to start on this?
Right. Sorry for that, but I like the way that you restrict just 3, because
you can say as many as you want, because I'm sure there are tons of
there are tons of it actually.
Absolutely.
I probably pick just 3 points. One is definitely the data center and its inefficiencies. I totally with Ken that as a game developer, we probably don't want to be involved in having so much data servers,
No.
simply because of so much that we need to factor in just to account for the maximum load. The heat that come up from it, that is tremendously inefficient in terms of electricity bills and things like that. Unless we find a way to improve the efficiencies of it. In fact, I'm also wondering how the cloud providers are working their way around this. The second is actually of the bandwidth, right? Earlier I did mention that the telcos are actually a major stakeholder in all of this. Now we are talking about in cloud gaming, the latency will actually can actually kill off the experience of the gamers. So who is going to foot the bill to ensure this quality of service to each and every gamer? All right, the game developers or the cloud or telco. So this is definitely something that we need to really think about. And the third, from the developer's perspective, how do we actually come up with the cloud exclusive games, or the cloud games that can only run on cloud? Because we have been talking about cloud, but a lot of I think a lot of us are just thinking of the having games ported onto many different platforms. But that is not going to draw the gamers away. What is going to draw gamers away and start to play cloud games, real cloud games, is because you have got something that cannot be played on the mobile phone, cannot be played on your console, cannot be played on your desktops.
Right.
And how do we actually design that? Is actually a very, very big question mark.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Lucas, do you want to comment on that as well? What are some challenges in cloud gaming, and what are some of these innovative ways to address that?
Okay, thank you. I think my concerns are more from the gamer's perspective or from the gamer's side. Maybe the first question is about the data plan cost for now. I mean, in some countries, in some markets, the Wi-Fi connection is okay, it's available to every family. But if you look at the developing countries, Southeast Asia, most gamers are playing game on mobile phones. So the data plan cost for now, I mean, for recent years will be a problem or challenge. And maybe the next challenge is by the internet connection quality, the stability and the latency. I mean, for some category games, no problem. Let's say the cars game and the SLG strategy games, yeah, they are okay for cloud gaming. But if you look at the action games, let's say the shooting game or mobile games, mostly it requires a latency under 100 ms. I think for now, and it requires a connection very stable. So for now, maybe it's a challenge for the developing countries. And also, I think for the industry, the next challenge is I see several more and more cloud gaming platforms to launch. So, but what's the strong reason to motivate the developers to invest a lot on the cloud gaming for on the platform? Because for now, it seems the Google Play or App Store, they are the top platforms for the developers. I think the industry should to find something different or some new experience to motivate the developers to transfer to the cloud gaming. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, do you want to jump in on this as well?
Sure. I think 3 challenges. First of all, I do believe technology is always the first challenge. As all the others has mentioned, how to provide good latency, stream the cloud game real time, and make sure the experience to the end user, especially our picky gamers, can be at least on par with the native game platforms. That's definitely something I think a lot of people are still working on. And I think this is one of the biggest problem that we need to tackle first to provide a basic services that is good. Secondly, it's about the reason of, I would put it as a content innovation in terms of game content. So traditionally we're playing on mobile, on PC, on console, and we categorize games into different genres. And I do believe that with the cloud gaming technology, there will be new ways of new types of game play being invented. For example, if you look back, Twitch play Pokemon, fundamentally it's actually interaction between viewers and the gameplay of the streamers, right? So far right now, we're only looking at the viewer as a very passive way of receiving information from the streamer. But with cloud, there's actually definitely a possibility that actually sometimes maybe the viewer can control the gameplay of the streamer, or maybe join the same game session or take control of the gamer. And I do believe that with the cloud gaming technology, there will be some very interesting chemistry. There will be some innovation along this line. And thirdly is about, I would say, business model. Right now, as everyone says, Google Play App Store is still the main publishing channel for traditional way of launching a mobile game. PC, maybe Steam, Epic Store, console, we have Xbox and PS4. So cloud right now, everybody's still like testing water. And even with some seeing the early results, they treat it as an additional incremental publishing channel for their existing way of publishing on the stores. So we need to, I think no matter the platform or the game or the publisher might have to try different ways of acquisition and monetization on the cloud gaming platform. Some of which we have seen right now is like subscription model. We also do have like free-to-play plus in-app ads plus in-app purchase. We just have to, looking back in the history, right? With every revolution of technology, there might be different ways of charging people coming up and monetization comes up. So we have to figure out a way that cloud gaming is stand differently from traditional ways of publishing games and monetizing the games. I think, yeah, technology is the basis. It's the first challenge, have to keep improving on. Secondly, it's always about content. I think gaming is always about the game itself, whether there's innovation in the game content, to company with the cloud. And thirdly, it's a business model. It's only when the game developers can earn money that there will be a positive cycle, that more money and investment can be coming into this industry. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was actually really interesting. Can we move on to slide 9, please?
Sorry, yeah, just to jump in on the cloud gaming part.
Go for it, Ken.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, from Alibaba perspective, Alibaba cloud perspective, actually, we have some definition for what is cloud gaming, right? I think Lucas and Keong mentioned, what they mentioned is more of the type of, okay, let's say we have 3 types of games. One is totally run on the client side, right, on your console, or your PC, or on your mobile. Then the other type is the client is running on your mobile or your browser on your console, but the backend calculation, some part of a backend calculation is done in the cloud or in the server. We call it also cloud gaming. But there is also another type, which Nick also mentioned a bit, whereby the rendering of the graphic also is done. So the game logic and also the rendering of the graphic is done at the server side or the cloud. And only the streaming of the video is sent to the client, the user, the player. And the player control the games and sends the controls, the commands to the cloud. So I'm looking actually for this question. I would also like to more focus on the challenges on the last type of the game, the real cloud gaming, whereby everything is run in the cloud. Only user is using a streaming client to see his feedback of the input. Yeah, which I think Facebook is going to launch some type of this cloud gaming, and actually Alibaba Cloud, we also have something in work also. In China we already have this this service already available in China, and we are bringing it out to overseas as well. We call it the true cloud gaming, whereby everything is rendered in the cloud, right? Even the graphics. So even with a mobile phone, you can play a AAA games with a very pretty graphics, right? With type of Unreal Engine running behind it, because all the game the graphic rendering is in the cloud. So the challenges for this is actually, for me, for this type of a cloud gaming, first is the latency, the user experience. And recently Google Stadia, also a cloud gaming platform that's created by Google, they just announced to close the whole team, because I think the main reason was the latency. I mean, the user experience is not uniform across all the players, the cloud gaming players, right? So this is something need to be addressed. And the solution, the creative solution for that is more of the edge technologies, that's edge servers or edge computing technologies that's closer to invest in more of these edge technologies closer to the end users, the players. For example, the 5G. When the 5G is more popular, this type of latency connectivity issues may be solved. More edge servers are deployed around the region, deployed near to the user. This type of issue may be also solved. And the other way to solve this issue is also in terms of type of the game to choose to play on this platform. I would say the games like Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator, is most suitable for this type of cloud gaming platform as compared to those fighting games, right? The 1v1 type of Street Fighter games, right? Because the latency is very, very demanding for that type of game. But Flight Simulator is not. But Flight Simulator, the graphic is very demanding, right? Then the second challenge I see is the licensing issue. So previously, all the games are having a different type of licensing, whereby you buy disc or buy on the Steam, right? So, but if it's on the cloud platform, you actually pay, the gamers actually pay to like renting the game. So they pay as they play. They pay as they play by hours, the time they consume the game. So these I don't really have a solution. So they need to sort out a better licensing for then the developer have an incentive to put their game on a cloud gaming platform, right? And the third challenge I would say is the operating cost. So it's related to the first question. My first challenge is the having more servers, edge servers, and invest in the 5G technology, things like that. So your operation cost will shoot up. So it's either you have a bad connectivity or you invest more into connectivity. Yeah, so this is the third challenge. In order to solve that, I would say that economy of scale may solve this, because this edge technologies and 5G technologies is not just used for games. It can use for many other industries as well. So as more and more people start to using these technologies for other purposes, these type of facilities, infrastructures, or the cloud infrastructures will get more and more popular around the region, whereby it can able to solve the cost operation type of issue. Yeah, that's my insights for this question. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Lucas and Yiren, this is for you. I'm going to start with Lucas first. Lucas, what are the trends and opportunities in esports specifically for developers, professional gamers? And I'm wondering if COVID-19 played a role in any of these trends.
Yeah, okay. I mean, before pandemic and the COVID, we already saw the trend, the growing trend of the esports industry is growing very fast. And during pandemic, I think the esports industry and the viewership grow faster than before, because most gamers have to stay at home and had more time to watch the content. Yeah, I give an example is last year in 2020, our esports professional league in Indonesia and the Philippines both got increasement around 700% by viewership. I think the pandemic situation helped not only on the viewership, but also on the monetization and the sponsorship sales. Because of the pandemic, most of the traditional sports events were canceled.
Right.
So the online esports tournaments draw more attention from the brands and sponsors. It also help and also draw more attention from the media and the mainstream. So yeah, so I think after the pandemic, the esports industry will continue to grow very fast.
So that was going to be my follow-up question to you, actually. And Yiren, you can comment on this when I'm done as well. But do you think that trend is going to continue in the sense that more people will continue to get interested in that COVID-19 and the pandemic just accelerated a trend that was already there?
I think the trend is always there, no matter there is pandemic and not pandemic.
Right.
What pandemic did is to accelerate the trend to be a plus. So pandemic help more gamers transferred to be a regular esports audience. It's a plus, but the big trend is still there, because if you look at the population, I mean, the more and more young generations begin to play games and grow up with games, and they will be more and more used to be a regular esports audience. I mean, that's the big trend.
Got it. Yiren, do you want to pipe in on this one as well?
Yeah, so actually, pre-COVID, I would say esports is really fascinating in that there's already a very close parallel to existing real-life sports IPs, right? You know, football, racing, the NBA, etc. But unlike the physical realm, esports IPs and titles are in constant flux, right? In the past, it was primarily centered around skill-based shooters, for example. Then MOBAs burst onto the scene with Dota in the early 2000s. There's battle royales, currently the hottest kid on the block, I would say. But who's to say what the next big thing will be, right? And of course, this ties in super closely for developers, mainly because we see companies that are iterating on existing genres. New MOBAs, new shooters, new battle royales come out almost every day. And at the same time, there are some that are digging as well for new sorts of genres, like we saw with Fall Guys, for example, or we saw with Among Us, for instance. So on the development front, definitely a huge amount of potential. In that it's not going to be as static as what we see for the conventional sports or other real life entertainment, I would say. But also for, I think, on the gamer side, the esports athletes, I would say it's considered as to be more of a challenge, right, compared to your conventional athletes. In that, rather than have the luxury of being able to spend years, right, honing your craft and becoming experts, that sort of change, it's really difficult in that it already takes significant amounts of time to master these titles, master the game mechanics, master the controls, and when your livelihood is at stake and how popular your IP is, I would suppose it's going to be pretty stressful for a lot of these esports athletes. And yeah, for the brands and companies, naturally, we are still seeing ways that they can come in to engage with the audiences that watch esports. Traditionally, of course, there's the traditional way of advertising, sponsoring teams, plastering your logos onto these events and the like. But going forward with new technologies coming in, like maybe you can have immersive sort of advertising, for example, in maybe Apex Legends, for example. Your billboards who knows, might even see a Coca-Cola advertisement in future. Yeah, there are multiple ways I would say that potentially brands and companies could join in to figure out how they can interact with these audiences. Yeah, because after all, it's audience engagement at the end of the day. Yeah.
So I've got a follow-up question to you, and actually anybody can answer this. This is something that's very interesting to me. I feel like esports is kind of at the stage that organized sports was more than 100 years ago, where the larger population outside of the traditional gaming world doesn't take it as seriously today as they take sports themselves, whether it's the EPL or any other football or American football or baseball or basketball globally. But that at some point we're going to have, and look, most people don't even really follow skateboarding, but everybody knows who Tony Hawk is, right? When are we going to get a gamer who's the Tony Hawk of gamers and get the larger population to realize, like you said, Yiren, that actually mastering the gaming dynamics is really hard and actually takes an incredible amount of skill and training? When is that shift going to take place? And does cloud, this is what I'm thinking about, accelerate that because it extends the amount of people that can both game and can watch those games through streaming?
I would say it's about accessibility, right? Like,
Yeah.
not everybody is a gamer, not everybody likes gaming. I would say sports, like you've mentioned, is where gaming is where sports used to be maybe a few hundred years back, where before television, radios, etc. Yeah, people didn't have access, so there's no hype, there's no interest. But as we see the upcoming generation grow up around this sort of immersive content, right, for games, it's entirely likely that we see how streamers of games are so popular today, right? Like even if it's not in a competitive capacity, people are just as happy, to consume and interact with this sort of content.
Sure.
I think it's very, very promising. Yeah, and that I would say cloud would be more of an accelerant in that you expose more people to conventional gaming. But I think that goes hand in hand with hardware penetration. Yeah, especially in I guess the less developed parts of the world.
Yeah, and Lucas, what do you think? You're very closely associated with this, but when do we get sort of the World Cup or the Olympics of gaming where like the whole world is paying attention? What do you think?
I think everything is possible in the future. It's very promising. For myself, I think the esports industry is still in a very early stage.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like before F1, no one think driving can be a sports. Then later and later, F1 to be a mainstream sports.
Right.
For esports, it's the same. We need some time to grow, to grow the audience base, to get into the mainstream sports industry. Yeah, I think for the long term, it's very promising.
I think so too. Okay, I want to go to slide 10, and this is the way I want to sort of finish this up before we get into some of the Q&A from the audience. In the same way that we did sort of quick introductions at the beginning, I want to go through the list of people and just maybe a quick pithy idea about what's in store for stakeholders in the future. What do the business and venture opportunities look like? And can we start with you, Nick?
Well, I have to say, gaming business is growing. Cloud gaming business is growing together with gaming.
Right.
So gaming developers should look out for the latest technology to enable your game, to enable your game with better graphic, better latency, and etc. On the publishing teams to look out for the latest trend in user acquisition and advertisement. And for the platforms, it's a matter of supporting more developers and publishers and create an easier experience on the user side for no matter downloading, experiencing the game, trying the game, to make sure that the distribution channels are smooth. So I think it's a good era for all the stakeholders in the gaming industry, and really look forward to more innovation and technology breakthrough in the future.
Thank you. Keong, can you give us a quick comment on what you think the future looks like as well for stakeholders?
Yeah. Well, I believe a lot of people have been thinking or talking about cloud gaming is kind of like the Netflix for gaming. But I think there's an alternative view. Perhaps we could have a YouTube for gaming. And the reason why I'm saying this, in fact, if we look at what will make for gaming in Netflix, people spend very little time looking at the different dramas. In fact, there's a report that says people only spend about 30 minutes on Netflix, but they actually spend 2 hours on a single game. So unless you have got all the pieces in place, and probably the Netflix model might not be within reachable range, but a YouTube for gaming where all the indie gamers could post up their game. Anyone could actually put it there, where the monetization could be in terms of advertisements and things like that. It could be a conceivable business venture. Yeah, and that is probably where I'll probably be very interested in.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Lucas, do you want to give us your view on the future as well?
Yeah, I'm very excited to see the future. I think all the technology problems will not be a problem in the future. I mean, the technology problem will not be a problem. So it's very interesting to look forward to the new business models about our cloud gaming.
Got it. Okay. And Yiren, do you want to give us your view on this?
So personally, I'm most interested about the content. Yeah, because like I mentioned, right, IPs are constantly in flux, right? So from MOBAs to shooters to battle royales, I'm personally excited to see what will be the next big title, the next big genre to make it out, right? I mean, people used to say, oh, single player games are dead, everyone's focused on multiplayer content, but no, that's not the case, right? We see, streamers still raking in views based on what would conventionally be considered non-popular content. So yeah, I think I'm most interested to see what's coming up next, to see what's the next big thing, right, after battle royales. Is it all going to be competitive? Can we perhaps see some form of cooperative gameplay, perhaps? Yeah, in the form of esports, maybe.
Very interesting. Okay, Ken, let's finish with you. I'm sure you have an opinion on this.
Yes. All right. So for me, I would say that I still go back to the starting when Nick mentioned the for the future. I think the boundary for game developers and publishers is getting lower and lower. The entry boundary of entry to this industry, because of all the technologies, like even nowadays compared to 5 years ago, Unity engine is much easier to use. And also as a game publisher, when they want to advertise their game on Facebook, nowadays it's also very easy, right? And as for developers to develop and also to deploy their games, previously they need to go data centers, but now they can use cloud resources, and it's also easier and easier. So the whole trend is becoming that everyone can be a game player as well as a game developer. So this is, I would say, this is an opportunity and also a trend, whereby every player is also a co-creator of the games. Yeah.
Very interesting. Look, in the interest of time, I'd just like to ask the group one more question as part of a Q&A. And I want to go back to something that we said earlier Everybody talked a little bit about microtransactions. And I want to start with Nick on this one, but is there a distributed ledger technology or a blockchain technology solution to this? And is there sort of a Libra interest in what's happening in the microtransactions for games on the blockchain side?
I don't have any insights to share on this part because I don't think it's my expertise.
Okay.
Yeah, I will definitely pass it to someone else.
Fair enough. Does anybody else have an answer or an opinion on this?
I think it's very difficult because I don't really see, okay, from my understanding, I don't really see a microtransaction that is using blockchain yet. Maybe there is, but not of my knowledge, but definitely it's a very creative way to approach it. Because nowadays, again, blockchain as a service is a service on a cloud platform. Different cloud platforms provide that. You can really build your own type of blockchain. You use blockchains to create your own types of workflows, right? Be it transaction-based or those workflow-based type of system using a distributed storage type of database type of this type of solution or blockchain. Yeah.
Okay. And just one more quick question, and then I'll just let everybody go. This is a question for Keong. What do you think should be the starting point for learning about games, or something you'd like to teach people about getting into games?
There are games jams out there. Take part in one of the game jam. That is probably one of the fastest way to learn how to put a game together, right? Well, compared to going to school.
Fair enough. Okay. Look, I think we're running out of time. I just want to thank everybody. First, I'd like to thank TechNode Global, Alibaba Cloud, and I'd also like to thank the entire team who put together this Tech Insight series. Thank you as well to Lucas Mao from Moonton, Ken Xu from Alibaba Cloud, Keong Go from Yoozoo, Nick Lee from Facebook, and Yiren Lim from Unity. You were all awesome. And I also want to thank the participants and the people that gave us some of the questions. Today was really amazing. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.